Welcome to this session of the Cyber Leaders Exchange. My guest today is Gina Scinta, the Deputy Chief Technology Officer for Thales Trusted Cyber Technologies. Gina, thanks so much for taking the time to join me.
Yeah, thank you for having me today.
It's been 6 months since the National Cyber Strategy was released. We know the goal is to shift and rebalance the cyber relationship, realign the incentives, and a big piece of that is around the development of and protection of software. So I'm going to start there. We know this liability change happened. What are you starting to see? How are you working with either agencies or other cybersecurity vendors to start to mitigate those risks to the supply chain?
Yeah, so as Thales Trusted Cyber Technologies, we're a trusted U.S. source of supply for key technologies for the federal government. So it's kind of been in our DNA for years to be focused on protecting our solutions for our customers, as well as helping our customers protect their data with our solutions, right? So we do maintain required U.S. federal government approvals and certifications to develop and support and sell our products to government clients. We fall under a proxy agreement with DCSA for foreign ownership and influence, as well as a national security agreement with the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. This started with us in 2015, and because of these agreements, what we did at Thales TCT, at the time we were SafeNet Assured Technologies, we developed what's called a Trusted Technology Import Process, or TTI. And we use this as a way to document what solutions we are importing into our products and make sure that they are in a trusted manner, the technology that can be run in sensitive programs and products for our government customers. As a result of that agreement, that now has become a requirement for Thales commercial products to go through this TTI process. So this is something we've been doing for quite some time now. So starting to move in the direction of, what's in the national cybersecurity strategy as far as, mitigating risk with the supply chain. We feel like we've kind of been ahead of the game on that, and now we're becoming, more in line with using the tools that are coming to us from the federal government, such as software bill of materials.
And I would definitely want to talk about the SBOM. It's a hot topic. I just heard recently from the General Services Administration about how they're really focused on some pilots at two agencies. But before we do that, we talked about the TTI process. How hard was that to put in? What did that take from an internal perspective to say, okay, can we make this work? And can we prove to our government customers and private sector customers that it is working as much as you can? I know there are probably some sensitivities that you can only go so deep into.
It's funny, when I was talking to my CTO about this yesterday, he was a very big part of the development of that. And he kind of wished he had patented the process when he went through it. But that we do have a working group that's involved in this process. It involves product management, which is a part of our CTO's office. It involves engineering, all the way up to the president of the company. So we have everybody involved in the process to ensure that we are developing in as secure a manner as possible, because our history, our DNA goes back to really protecting the most sensitive information within the U.S. federal government, and it's something we take very seriously.
I think a lot of your partners in the private sector, a lot of your competitors in the private sector would maybe say very similar things, right? Well, no one, obviously, I've never heard anyone say, that would be news, by the way. We don't do a lot to protect our, so maybe walk me through what kind of questions do you get from federal clients, from federal customers about how you go about this, how you ensure, what are some of those things that they're interested in learning about? And if you're able to respond to what, kind of answer their questions.
Kind of what we have done is on our customer support portal, with every release of a product, we provide a list of open source or third-party software products that we use within our product portfolio, so that our customers are fully aware upfront of what we're doing. So we're very proactive about that. We are seeing a lot of requirement for SBOMs coming through for, in RFIs, RFPs, RFQs. So we're seeing more and more requests for that. As a matter of fact, last year, one of our technology partners that was going to integrate one of our products into their solution suite requested an SBOM specifically for that product before they would integrate it into their solution. And so that put us into the process of now we're looking at tools we can use to build SBOMs of our products. And we were able to provide that SBOM to our technology partner, who then in turn, he ran it through some vulnerability testing tools and also used the National Vulnerability Database to provide, to use as a source for the input that we gave him to the SBOM. So it's, we're seeing a lot of positive activity within that space, not only with our customers, but also with our technology partners as well, because integrating with our solutions is a huge part of our ecosystem, working with our technology partners. So we try to be proactive in getting the information that they need to them. And it's a good exercise for us that we've now incorporated the requirement for an SBOM into our roadmap for our whole product portfolio. So it's not something we've been able to just roll them all out at one time, but we've got a plan for building those SBOMs for each one of the products and the products that interact with our main like key management solutions as well. So we've got a plan in place for how we're going to not only provide what they need today, but be able to provide it for our whole portfolio going forward.
The idea of SBOM is still very new to a lot of federal agencies. What to ask for, how does it work,
right?
How to apply it. Is there anything you'd offer to them about, okay, here's some things to consider as you're asking, whether it's you all at Thales or any number of vendors, what makes a good SBOM?
Yeah, I mean, they don't really ask for something specific. They just say they need an SBOM, right? I don't think they always know what that means. There are some tools in the market that we've leveraged to generate the SBOM. The SBOM has to be in a machine readable format when we do give it to the customers. So we do try to make sure that, if there's any tool we can use to help us build our SBOM, it makes it easier for us than making it a manual process, but they haven't really dug into that. But, one of the questions is an SBOM really a means of showing, security, supply chain security? No. An SBOM is really, think of it as like an ingredient list, for your recipe. It's like, I need all of these ingredients to bake my cookies, right? But, there's a process of how you incorporate those, ingredients into your solution, right? So by itself, an SBOM is really not a security solution. That's really where you start getting into, doing secure by design, right? Which is a whole nother topic that we're starting to see requirements come out of the federal government for.
I appreciate your analogy about, SBOM is really that recipe, right? Understanding what ingredients go in the recipe, because I think too many people get, I have an SBOM, I'm fine. Well, you have to understand what it means. Is that the other thing that agencies really kind of have to keep in mind as they start to request these SBOMs? Well, how do you understand what it really is saying? How do you understand if you are really getting a cookie recipe that's going to get the gooey chocolate chip cookies that you pull apart, or you can get the hard ones that feel like a brick?
Right. I mean, I think, having something referenceable through like the National Vulnerability Database, where you can say, okay, here's the SBOM, here's the list of the open source or third party, products that they're using, and then run that assessment through the vulnerability database. Then you can say, oh, okay, I'm seeing where there's validity to what they're using. There's no vulnerabilities in the solutions that they have integrated into their products today. But like I said, it's really like a tool. For now, from a government perspective, it's really more, what I'm seeing is more like a checkbox. Like, I've got to make sure that you have it, right? It's just like FIPS 140-2, right? Do you have FIPS 140-2? Yes. Okay, check the box, right? So I think for now, it's more of a checkbox than they're really going to take that, ingredient list and do something with it.
In the last minute or two we have together, Gina, I just want to, you mentioned secure by design, another key piece that we've seen in the national cyber strategy. Talk a little bit about that, and what are some of those things that you're starting to see emerge around this idea of how to do secure by design?
Right. So there's also not only secure by design, but secure by default. And this is something, there's actually a document that came out of CISA that was developed in conjunction with FBI, NSA, and other cybersecurity authorities across the globe, like Australia, Canada, UK, Germany, the Netherlands, New Zealand. They're all collectively put this together, where it's developed to focus on shifting the balance of cybersecurity risk from the customer to the vendor, right? And it's really like a first of its kind. It's in a draft form right now, so we're evaluating that to see, what we can use as a guidance for that. But we try to do that, and it's been in our DNA for years. From a customer's perspective, how can they leverage that, right? Because like we're not only developing software and products, but our customers are too. I come from a years ago a background in application development, and I never had to worry about security because that was long before the internet, right? All the systems were run, in a closed environment. But when you're but you can't have a discussion about, DevOps without including DevSecOps in that conversation. And that's where, looking at using solutions like we have, like with a hardware security module, where you can integrate that into something you may be already using to build that security into your DevOps, such as secrets management or code signing, where you can leverage that root of trust to an HSM to create that higher level of security around your development process is a good example. Machine identities, I've heard a lot at conferences I've been at recently, where they're starting to leverage robotic process automation, where there's repetitive processes that they can eliminate human intervention and do it through robotic process automation. But how do you authenticate that identity of a robotic process versus a human process, and being able to leverage an HSM to store those identities and do that process and automate the identity of those robots is another way of building added levels of security in your DevSecOps processes. So there's a lot of places where you can leverage things like a hardware security module or a centralized key manager in your DevSecOps process to build security at the beginning, which is what I always tell my customers. You've got to security needs to be a forethought, not an afterthought. And all the things that we've seen from the White House and from, security organizations like CISA over the past 1.5 to 2 years, with the White House executive orders and memos out of the White House about, security, cybersecurity and protecting your environment. It's only reiterating what we've been saying to our customers for over 30 years now. So we've been in place doing these solutions with our customers for a long time, and we're continuing to evolve that as the requirements come out of the government to do that.
Gina, you opened the door to so many more follow-up questions, but unfortunately we're out of time of this session for the Cyber Leaders Exchange. So let me thank my guest.
Thank you.
Gina Scinta is the Deputy Chief Technology Officer for Thales Trusted Cyber Technologies. Gina, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm Jason Miller, and you're watching Federal News Network. Now let me send you back to the studio for more from the Cyber Leaders Exchange.